Okay, I'm going to show you how to cap a carpet liner, a runner for a hallway. Uh, Obviously, I could take this to a shop. I could have this bound in a fabric that would match this. It would not be like this, but it'd match this, and it would look rather nice. However, I've got a border on this. I don't want it chopped off. I want this border to go this way. So that is called capping. I'm going to show you how that is done. And though I have never done this, uh, well, that's beside the point. I can always get it done with binding once I screw up. Now let's see what it's like to actually try to cap a carpet. First thing you need to do, obviously you need two borders like this that you can put one across this way and one across the other end. So we got to cut this off. You got to get enough, obviously. I got to cut this off to some length. Okay, how much? Well, it's going to be, let's call it 27 inches. So I got to have at least, I'm going to call it 28 inches. I'm going to call it 28 inches. I got to have at least 28 inches of border. So what we're going to do is pull this out, 28 inches. Might as well mark it over here. And yes, I'm going to mark it. I'm too lazy to do it any other way. So 28 inches I said I wanted. There's 28 inches. So I want to cut this liner off right there. I don't have any trouble showing somebody how to do something that I have never done myself. This can be called many things. None necessarily good. Okay, this is for sheetrock, this is, but it seems fairly square. I can take it at this and move it around. Okay, how far is that? Well, I hope it's 28 inches because I just measured it. Measure twice, cut once, or whatever that is the carpenters say. Okay, 28 inches, that's sufficient for me. I got a piece of plywood underneath this. So you should always use, and carpet people will tell you, always use a new sharp blade because your carpet costs money, and it's just good practice. Now, so that's what we're doing. This is not a new blade. I'm just telling you what they tell you to do. I don't do that. I found that blade somewhere in the back of the box. So now let's see what we have now on this end. Besides a lot of fuzz. Well, how much fuzz do we have? Well, okay, I measured the length I wanted. Then I decided that I wanted right at this edge. What I've done is I've cut this edge off this piece that I cut off, and I've taken some tight bond glue and just ran along the edges, used my hand on it like this, kind of seal those edges, keep it more stable while I'm handling it. There's probably better glues you can use. I say tight bond. It's really just any aliphatic resin. So what I have is I have the border that will go at one end of the hall runner. I have the piece that will go off the other end. This piece I went ahead and sealed the edges with the aliphatic resin just to keep it from coming undone, and then I can use this to patch, heaven forbid, the hall runner should we get a bad stain or tear or whatever. Now this glue is very water resistant. Waterproof? No. Resistant? Yes. I would not want to have a high-powered steam cleaner sitting on top of this beating it, but then I'm not so sure I'd want that done on any piece of post carpeting that had been professionally mended or repaired. That just doesn't seem like a good idea. Even the heat sensitive tapes that are used to bind carpet, well, heat's what makes them get soft and bind to the carpet. Steam cleaners, a lot of heat. So I'm doing what I think is prudent and always the fallback position. Engineers, don't do anything you can't back up from. So I can always take this and get it bound if I mess up. So here is my spare piece of carpet. that I can use for repairing. Now let's see what's involved in actually beveling these and cutting them to the proper shape. So I have the runner out at the end. Here's the cap that's going to go on this end. Where to put it? Well, I've got my red band here with very little other pattern showing on it. I don't care where I put it. It doesn't seem to be an even break between this all ruby color here and any other pattern, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. I'm not going to be able to find a recurring pattern, so I might as well just put it close to the edge right there. And now what needs to be done is now I need to bevel this way, cut this through here, and bevel this. That's the next order of the day. You may notice that I now have a new utility knife with sharp blades. So that's what it's going to take place next. You really shouldn't cut from this side. It's awful hard, the nap side. It's awful hard to make lines. It's hard to reach to the pattern. You really should always cut it from the back edge. So now I'm going to turn it over so we can see what that looks like. Now, independently from anything else, I do know I've got to have a 45-degree cut on this cap strip at both ends, and so I might as well take advantage of the glue that I've got here at this end, kind of holding that in place. And so there's no reason to not cut it here. I'll cut both ends a proper length. Then I will use that piece as a pattern to cut the hall runner itself. So I have my 45-degree line and a new sharp blade. This is going to be a little bit of a mess because just the angle that's being cut. But again, as soon as I get it separated satisfactorily, I'm going to hit that edge again with tight bond. This again is just to keep it stable in the process of handling it. Once that's done, then I just I don't want that glue to go way up on the nap. I just want it to stay there at the binding. That's all I really need at the moment. What happens later remains to be seen. Yes, this is time consuming, but it ought to make a better job in the long run. Now I will cut the other end and do the same thing to the other end. Okay, if we take this cap strip and place it here, this is pretty much what it's going to look like, and that's acceptable, I guess. If there's any color change or audio change in this, it's because the Kodak Z915 or whatever it was I was using just crapped out, and I have had to go to another digital camera. But this is pretty much what we would like to have this look like, with the corners there at the edges. So now we have to cut this part off to match this. That is really easily said. Now let's see how easily done it is. It seems intuitively obvious that it's a bad idea to use something like this as a template when it is not that stable. So I cut this piece using proper angles and straight edges. I have measured this off the same way. I'm not using this piece as a template. I've laid out my lines accordingly to what the measurements were. Consequently, I'm going to make a cut right there. I'm going to take this edge, and now again this is going to be a pretty sloppy edge just because the way it's being cut. But we don't want to, again, a sharp blade is necessary. We don't want to stretch that out. Now we need to cut this edge through here. Fortunately, the straight edge is long enough. Strangely enough, when I'm told that you should always use a good sharp blade, that's true. Again, we don't want to pull on that. We just want to remove that which has been cut. It's okay that if there's a little overlap there because the nap will fill back in, hopefully concealing our cut edges. Again, I'm going to run aliphatic resin down that edge to stabilize it while I'm working with it. This should fit in here, and I have no problems about trimming this end to fit better. It looks like it's about a 1/2 inch oversized. No problems. As it has come to pass, we're now ready to, you can see where I made a little different measurements here, but the point is that this piece here had to fit in the slot that I arranged. I'll take care of that little corner later. There is some compression that has to take place, but after I force it together, I can measure from here to here, from here to here. It's the same dimension, whatever that was. Now we need to join these together. I'm going to use hot glue, which is what they use on carpet, which was a surprise to me. And I'm going to use this jute webbing, which I had because some chairs I made. It's old, but it's stable, and it will take hot glue easily. And you would want the longest pieces on the shortest run. So what we'd like to have is long runs here, and then a shorter run across this longer piece here. So what we'll need to do then is cut the pieces. This is not so thick that it can't overlap properly and without bunching up the rug. So what we're going to do now is just cut the pieces of jute we need to patch this one end. We'll flip it over. We'll do the other end the same way. So now I've cut the jute webbing to overlay this, and that's about all the area that I can get under the rug. And then we'll flip it over and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, how does this look? Does that look pretty nice? Well, I wish this wasn't a straight line there and that little thing wasn't there, but let's face it, no matter where you put this border, this is going to appear a different place because of the reoccurring pattern. But we're not through yet. See, we haven't done this bit here. This requires a hot glue gun. I am not a fan of hot glue guns being a model builder, but I have to recognize they certainly have their place in construction. There's few products these days that doesn't use a hot glue gun. So let's just start putting in this hot glue, and I don't care. I'm sure we can go back and clean it up under the edges later, but let's just start putting in this hot glue just to stick it a little bit. Fortunately, this is not sucking the heat out of it. Let's get the corners real good. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so now what we do, we'll come down and mash that real good. There's little rollers you can run on it. I don't have one. Okay, so now let's roll this back and let's pull this down, looks a little better. Move this over. This is not rocket science, and I always like that expression because the idea is that if it's rocket science, it's somehow complicated. No, not really. I'm a retired NASA engineer, and I can talk rocket science with people. I can talk engine exhaust pressures, ambient P sub A versus P sub E, which is the pressure at the exit, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to glue down some dang carpet to get it to look right. It's a hallway. It's not a rocket launch. So now, let's just move. Whoop. Let's just move this over to make sure we have the right edge here. We don't want to double up this thickness any more than necessary. So now we can come way up like this. Now once this is done, what we'll do is flip it over and just go back underneath the edges of this part here, the jute webbing, just a little bit, just to make that part fit right. The only really problem we're going to have are the corners, and I will address that later. Okay, so let's start now at the more critical part. Whoa. That looks good. That looks almost like somebody intended it. Now, having done that, let's flip this back and start this is not a good glue gun, but then nothing I have is that good. It is only good enough. Now that is bad. God, that hurts. But you don't want to get that glue up on the top of the mat. Okay, that I don't need to. Though this webbing will keep the insulation in pretty good, it won't keep it in forever. So let's scoot this. Oh God dang, it hurts. Whoa, whoa. A little comic relief there. I knew a lady who worked at a blanket factory one time who used a hot glue gun, an industrial hot glue gun, all the time. And you know what? She had blisters on her hands all the time. I used to think that they ought to have a better procedure than that. And then I started using hot glue guns and throwing them around the floor. I can tell right now that this is going to work satisfactorily. How good do you want it? Well, you're not supposed to walk around and say, hey, you see this hall runner? Look how crummy it looks. See, well, I'm not through yet, but we'll see how this is going to go later. Okay, this is the back side. We just got through gluing this down more or less. It's still kind of hot. Whoever designed that, I don't know. It doesn't sit up. But we need to go ahead and, just for our own pleasure, we need to glue this down a little bit so it will lay flat. Ooh! Ooh! Somehow it's funny to burn yourself. I don't know why. I'm reminded of the, oh, God dang. I'm reminded of the guy who says that it really hurts to stick a hot wire against your leg. It hurts every time. If there's a little a little masochist in you, then I would suggest you spend a lot of time with a hot glue gun. It would give you a lot of entertainment. Now, I want to be sure and pump this corner here, oh God darn, full of, it isn't required that you burn yourself, but let's just consider that you have to accept that as an inevitable possibility. Oh God darn. You can do it any way you want to. You can burn yourself now or burn yourself later. Okay, that's what the back side of one end looks like. I don't think that looks necessarily that bad. It's going to lay flat. I think that's going to look pretty good. Okay, this is one end done. It needs to be walked on. I think this is good. I would give this a lot of wear, and I would be, well, obviously I'm going to put it on the floor and we'll see how that works out. I don't like that straight line, but there's no way you can get away from it unless you cut exactly on that black line. Then you're going to cut in where? I don't know. It's still going to be cut. This reoccurring pattern is such that you can't get away from this kind of line. If it was squares, you could, yes, plan ahead and divide it up in such a manner that you could get rid of any indication of a line. All I can say is lots of luck. Now, let's see about doing this one. Okay, where we are now is we've got one end done to my satisfaction, maybe not to yours. We've cut our jute webbing so it underlays. So now it's time to take our trusty hot glue gun and start bonding the areas together. We can always go back and fill in glue where this is not sticking, but at the moment let's just pack it in to our satisfaction. Now I'm out of glue. I'm sure that looks funny, but I don't know any other way of doing it. Maybe I need a different type of glue gun with a different type of sand. But of significance is you don't want these two pieces of jute or whatever backing material you're using to overlap. You want the rug to be flat, so if you do put a mat underneath it, and a mat is not necessarily necessary if you're going to use double-sided adhesive, but you need to have control of your glue gun, that which is frustrating me. The other end's been sealed, the corners are still raggedy. I'm going to take care of that with a hot glue gun. This is working out okay. Now we'll flip it over and put the final seal on it and lay it down and walk on it, and most of these edges will disappear. That little white place there, I could pick that out as a thread if I really cared. I don't. This is not the way to cap runners. It is just a way. Okay, this is the back side of the second end, and we just need to go through and just seal these ends. Oh, ow, 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 and make funny noises because, oh, god dang, it really is necessary that you burn yourself if you're really going to do this right. If you're not going to burn yourself, you're just not giving it the attention it deserves. As I said earlier, I knew a lady who worked in a blanket factory here in South Mississippi, and she came home every day with blisters on her fingers, and her husband asked why it was that she had blisters, and she explained that she was just working faster than everyone else. I don't know if the manufacturer appreciated her agony because she's working faster. That is just one of those great mysteries in life. Now I will just seal these ends a tiny bit to close them up. I'll trim off that end as necessary. The next time you see the rug, it will be on the floor. God dang. So I am content. This looks fine. It wears fine. I've walked on it a while. The other end is under the door of the linen closet, and I've got about 2 foot in there. I deliberately did it that way because as this end gets worn and showing some wear, I can then just change ends and get another end out that has not had this kind of wear. It will wear well. This is cheap stuff. Won't fade and all that. I am content.